So hallelujah, the boards have finally arrived. I had to give up on triode and bought driver boards instead from Tubes for Hi-Fi, which I didn't even know existed, but I waited 4 months for the triode boards to come that I had ordered and paid for, and they never showed up. And I feel badly for those guys, because obviously they weren't trying to rip me off or anything, and no business intends to do poorly. So I went with these other boards, and now I'm doing a kind of rough in on how I want to mount them. My goal is to limit the number of holes I have to drill in the faceplate or the top plate, which so far are only the ones for the transformers, and this choke sits underneath one of the transformers, so that I'm gonna elevate. Well, I'm gonna use these strips to elevate everything, and using standoffs. And that way I can take full advantage of the depth, or the width and the depth, so that nothing interferes with the with the wiring and the tube sockets. So I figure I'll put, and since I'm not going to use the sockets, but instead just wire directly to panel mounts, it really doesn't matter where this is. And if I put these two runners here, I was going to try and use the holes that I've already drilled for the top plate, but it isn't going to work out, principally because I need to leave room for the VU meter. So this way, when it's elevated up to here, it'll be perfect. No problems, I should say. So this is the basic layout. I'll take everything apart, drill mounting holes in these rails, and then countersink them so the faceplate still, or the top plate still sits right on top. And this choke is on the choke hole. So this is everything other than the tube sockets and some of the various wiring harnesses and so forth that'll go there. And once I get this all laid out, I'll be able to mark where I want to mill out the socket for the IEC plug, and also the RCA connector. Other than that, and the on-off switches in front. So, time to drill some holes and find out what this thing's going to look like. So this is certainly, I'm going to square this up so that the measurements are all, I can write them down, because I'm not going to build this second one till this one is done and running, because it just seems like so often there are mistakes that are made, and that way at least I won't make them on both amplifiers. So, time to get started. Oh, wait a minute. I want to do some measurements, but these don't need to be in there. Those can go over here. This is the driver and the board for the VU meter. And power supply. And these are the they're tubes for us, but I assume that's a Bob Latino design. This is the octal board. They have two, so you get to run the other tube, which I prefer. So just a couple measurements, but so once I get all this mounted, then I can start planning out where these tubes go And because I don't have to have the sockets on the board, I can move these tubes forward and get as much separation as possible from each tube, or the tubes from each other. So got these components mounted, and everything's looking good. And as you can see, I got plenty of room. I mean, I've got room left over. So now, the two next steps will be making holes for these things, and then making holes for those things. Also, kind of funny, went to get the transformers to set them on top of the chassis, and just happened to see all these. I forgot to put these under the bells. So I got to pull all those bells off, and actually, you know what? I've got some new Nomex. I'll probably just make them out of that. So, let's see. Where are you? Oh, I'm turning around. Whoops, sorry for kicking that. Oh, okay, that's because those are on there. So it's gonna go like that, and like that. So, tubes. Run the KT88s there, the rectifier, and then decide where to put these two from the driver boards. So that should be easy. Plenty of room between each tube, there will be. Okay, yeah. On to the next step. So, as I said in another video, I got the driver boards in from Tubes for Hi-Fi. So, getting the plate ready for tube sockets. And normally I wouldn't show this sort of minor work, but in this case, there's a little trick on this one that I thought some people might be interested in. This is 1/8 inch aluminum, and it's 6061, so it's pretty soft, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to work with. And I'm using this Greenlee chassis punch, and if you just put the Greenlee punch in there and try to crank on it, it's going to be no chance. It's too hard to turn the wrench. And so I thought I'd show you what I do in those situations to work around that problem. Whoops, I think what I'll do is go ahead and put the important part on there. So what I've done is just put the bolt in the vise, because I'm serious, even with a big 12-inch crescent wrench, it was really difficult to turn the bolt. So put it in here, and the first part of it is fairly simple. Just start turning this, and the first part will cut pretty quickly, but it gets tight after that. So what I do is help it along a little. You have to, if you hit it, it drives the cutter in there further, and then it easily moves another quarter turn or so. And if you keep doing that, finally you'll get all the way through. Oh, got it. That was one pop, and that was the second pop. So she's through. All you gotta do now is just, there we go. And then time to move on to the next one. So, got most of this done now. Thought I'd show you. So this is rectifier KT88s, and on the transformers here, I drilled, these are 7/8 holes, which are a lot bigger than what the standard chassis are come with. But those holes on the standard chassis are smaller than the holes in the bell, which makes no sense to me. And I put a transformer on here and it covers this anyway, so that now I can put a nice grommet in here and those wires will be just without any tension or strain. So, like I said, a little bit bigger, but the bells do cover. I put it right out to the corner and ordered some 7/8 grommets, which will have a 5/8 inside, I think. 5/8 ID. Doesn't matter, it's plenty of room. I just don't like wires hanging near metal edges. It's not a good idea. So turn it that way. So KT88, KT88, rectifier, my driver tubes, power output, or whichever, and pretty much time to start putting it all together. I said next I was going into the paint booth, but actually next I'm going to put everything together and plan the wiring.